Deze video is mede mogelijk gemaakt door Global Joy Media Groep.
The groove and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. See, I am Wonder Mike and I'd like to say hello. Bang bang, boogie to the boogie, the up jump the boogie to the bang bang boogie. Let's rock. You don't stop. Rock the middle that'll make your body rock. Real so fun. You heard my voice that I've rocked two friends alone. And next on the mic is my man Hank. Come on, come and sing that song, that song.
Have many of you seen that before? Yeah? Okay. A lot of nodding heads. And I apologize for giving you content that you've probably already seen before. Now, I don't bring that up just because it's kind of fun to watch babies roller skating through what looks like a Central Park. There's a bigger message here. So this commercial actually was posted on YouTube well before it aired anywhere. And it was a really clever technique from those who work on Evian to say, okay, how do we create a viral effect? How do we get people to start talking about this commercial well before we make any significant investment in television commercials? And how do we also make sure that once we get the buzz going, that we're found? Because we know that people are going to search on what they hear about. So if you look on the left-hand side, what Evian did is they actually purchased a space in YouTube. So this is not a paid commercial for YouTube, by the way. Where they basically took over anything related to Evian. They interviewed the babies. They created that earned space in terms of a Facebook fan page and making sure that they got traction with the fans. And when you look at a query, and I actually did this in France a little while ago, but when you look at this, this is where Google's universal, making all the world's information universally accessible comes into play, and how we as media and marketing professionals need to think about how we translate that for our own perspective. So what you see here is not just the YouTube video which they posted of the babies roller skating, but you'll see that a lot of other places like Daily Motion, Vimeo, and everything else, they either posted it there or users posted it on their preferred video platform to say, isn't this a cool and clever commercial? Then what you'll see is the first result is not for Evian. It's about somebody positively talking about the filming and the techniques that were leveraged for the creation of the commercial. So we know that now brands are in the control of the consumer. It's no longer that consumers, the brand just impresses a message. The most successful brands are those that allow the consumer to talk on their behalf. And that's what we're seeing just here isn't that a really cool commercial? How did they do that? Might not be specific to drinking water, but it is very specific to the power of the brand. And then what you see is images, and if you were to go further along, you would even get mapping content in here. So that's where you look at bought from the perspective of the Evian commercial, owned in terms of making sure that their images and all the stills from the commercial get indexed, and then earned in the context of those who are talking on their behalf show up in the space. So switching gears a little bit, we do a lot of studies just to understand how the consumer looks at search and what are the beliefs. And I think when I just put my pure search hat on, I'm always thinking of search as being transactional in nature, meaning we have clients that have stringent ROI or return on investment goals, and it's all about how are we going to achieve those results. That's all well and fine, but I think there's a tremendous impact on thinking about how do consumers perceive the brands that are in the search results. And what we found is that 36% of search engine users believe that the top results are the top brands. Well, that's almost sort of like, of course, right? We should all know that. But what the big point here is that for a lot of websites and marketing communication folks, we assume that because we're a top brand, we might have the top sales in our division, or we might have the best consumer attitudes out there, that intrinsically Google will put us at the top of the placement. And that doesn't necessarily happen because Google is basing on the relevancy of a web page, and it could be that somebody who's talking about you is outranking you. So it is important to make sure that search engine users have an intrinsic trust in the results that are delivered to them, particularly from Google, and that if you're not there, you're going to miss out on an opportunity to have a communication with the consumer. We also know that there's a 16% lift in unaided brand recall when a brand is present in both the organic results and the paid results, meaning that you have maximum placement on the page as possible. And of course, if they believe that the top brands are in the top results, and if they don't find them, then of course they're not going to purchase from them at all. There's all kinds of background noise going on here. I hope you're still with me. Okay, so just kind of taking that, and we thought about the bot owned and earned space in the context of Evian. What I also wanted to show you is this whole concept of Google looking at all the world's information and making it universally accessible or indexable. And what we see here, I'm sorry, I can't help but get distracted by that, is a search engine results page from a little while ago in regards to Steve Jobs. And what you see here is news results, organic search results, blog results. So of course there's the fake Steve Jobs who blogs under his name, more blogs, images, all the news. So this is a little bit of an older screenshot, and then video content. So it's making, on a personality like Steve Jobs, people, once they get fascinated by Apple, they want to know as much as they can. One of the biggest brand loyalist brands out there. And what's really compelling here is it's not just the standard biography of Steve Jobs that appears on the Apple website or the corporate information page. It's what consumers are saying about him as well. Okay, so we know the power of search. We know the context of how we need to think about from planning perspective of bot owned and earned, but what drives people to search? What are the motivators for people to search? And so it's really about some research that we've done, and we know that we live in a multi-channel world. We know that there are multiple touch points that a consumer is exposed to on any given day. They could be like myself, where I constantly have my BlackBerry right in front of my face. I'm looking at Twitter, I'm looking at Facebook, I'm getting my emails, and then of course if I'm using Foursquare and I'm checking in, then I'm getting messages from those who adapt to Foursquare saying, oh, you are our mayor, why don't you come in and take advantage of this special offer? And so what we wanted to do a couple years ago is we wanted to look at what those influencers were on consumers. Why did they search? Now, this is, again, is probably not all that surprising, but it's also very compelling. And I think it just really gives us a lot of food for thought. So 67% of those people who search have said that the drivers for them to search are offline indicators or offline channels. I usually ask people to guess, but it's a little loud, so I might not be able to hear your guesses. The top drivers, 37% are television commercials. So I think a lot of times also in the context of the digital space is people say, well, I'm going to commit all of my money to a digital expenditure because offline is less measurable and it's more expensive. This is really talking about you need those offline drivers to create demand, to create interest, and then use search as a capture mechanism for that demand that you're creating. So 37% being television, 36% being word of mouth, which mainly is a friend told me. Now when we did the study a couple years ago, it really was, okay, my friend emailed me about a product that they were interested in, or they whispered in my ear on the way to work. But now we know that that word of mouth platform is very digital indeed from a social media perspective. And then finally, what I find is most provocative is that 40% of those people who are influenced by those offline channels make a purchase. Now, we often expect that somebody researches online and purchases online as well, as long as the right distribution channels are in play. But the point being here is that consumers do a lot of research online, but if they're making big purchases, they need to go and feel and touch the product that they're looking to buy. So if they're looking for example, a car, they might do all their research online, they might actually configure their vehicle, but they want to get behind the wheel before they actually purchase it. So we know that those consumers who inform themselves will make that purchase. So what does that translate into? I have another video, so hopefully they've got the sound turned up for me. But this is a commercial. What I want you to do I apologize if you can't see it very well. It usually works under dim lighting. But just think about the messages that are conveyed here and what you would search on were you to see this commercial.